Good morning and welcome to Apex Online Racing. We're here today for round number 9 of Season 2 here of Oceania season on PS4. My name's Alex. Some of you might know me as Curly. I'll be doing the broadcast today, and I do have a guest with me in the commentary box, my second commentator of this season. He's finally here. His name is Dom. Some of you might know him as Overdyking. He races with me in the European League. So, Dom, how are you?
Not bad, not bad. Finally actually made this race after, agreeing to this about 3 weeks ago. So I'm very happy to be here finally and not sleeping in. Looking forward to this race as well. I mean, Italy is a good track. Always a lot of overtaking there with the many straights. So looking forward. Obviously, I do not know many of the drivers. I actually only know our championship leader as Maznat, as I have raced for them in a previous league. So looking forward to see what these drivers can bring to this track.
Yeah, for those of the viewers that have been around since last season, we had an absolute stormer of a race last time around in Italy. It was a beautiful three-way fight for the win between Maznat, Dubsy and VTI. Unfortunately, VTI no longer on the grid, but I'm sure that Maznat and Dubsy will be battling it out today like they have been all season. It was a really difficult race for the drivers last time out in Belgium, the rain coming down hard, and a large number of DNFs and crashes from drivers, most notably Dubsy in the final laps of the race from the race lead after what was a really beautiful drive, overtaking Maznat. Well, looked to be a potentially championship deciding move, and then to throw it away in the final laps. Real heartbreak for Dubsy there. So for the championship battle, we're currently sitting Maznat in the lead with 172 points, and then Dubsy in second with just 125. So it's a 47-point gap with only 7 races left. It's a large, a really large gap for the amount of time that we have. But if there's anyone that can pull that gap back down, it is Dubsy. He is our reigning champion, so we know that he has the capability to do it. I mean, Dom, if you were in Dubsy's shoes right now, surely you've got to be thinking just full on attack and be aggressive as you possibly can be, because at this point with this sort of gap, not got much to lose.
No, exactly. As you said, not much to lose. A 40-second points gap. 7 races to go. I mean, it's doable. It's definitely not easy, and I mean, Maznat is a guy, I mean, he's not finished below second this entire season. But anyway, I mean, Dubsy, you saw him bottle it last time out. That sort of stuff can happen to Maznat as well. So, yeah, I think Dubsy should just go all out and see where it takes him.
All right, so
going out onto the pits.
Just a little bit of news on the weather. I have had a message from one of the drivers, and the forecast, we've got heavy rain to start the race, and then slowly drying up through light rain, and then dry by the end of the race. It does look as if we have a bright and sunny qualifying session here at Monza, so the drivers, this really gives them free rein. They'll be able to push the tyres as much as they possibly want, because they'll be starting on either a wet or intermediate set of tyres, and then for the race, it's going to be another wet one here for the drivers. So yeah, this is a particularly difficult circuit in the wet. The braking zones and the traction zones are also treacherous, especially into turn 1 and turn 4 in particular. Those braking zones are really difficult. So the drivers may need to make some adjustments to their setups, and I'm sure that Dom can tell you a little bit about what changes the drivers may think about making to those setups, thinking about the wet race.
Well, obviously, I think this is quite a difficult qualifying session. You practice most of the time in the drive with a drive setup, a setup that you get used to, and obviously having a rain in a race, probably putting the ballast down, putting the wings up, it's going to unsettle the car a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see whether people will maybe brake too soon, putting the wings too high up for qualifying. We see Grunting Ortiz, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. We see him breaking into turn 1. Good turn 1 for him. Looking good so far. He's in lean though on my screen, so you might want to laugh that up to Rich.
Yeah, just starting a lap, we've got the Rumble in the Ferrari, and he's been one to watch over the last couple of races. He's not quite gotten the results that his pace perhaps has shown, and he's currently sitting 8th in the championship, and we'll be thinking that he can get himself a little bit further up that table. Hits the apexes nicely through the first chicane. A little twitch on traction. It's important to get the power down early there because you carry that speed all the way through Curve Grand, which is completely flat out for the drivers. Now down into the very difficult second chicane of turn 4, braking just before the 100-meter board, and then just clipping that curb on the inside. He's clipped it too much. Yeah, if you just hit the sausage sort of sausage curb on the inside there with the wheel, if you kind of straddle it with the car, you'll get away with it, but if you hit it with a wheel, it will really throw the car off balance, and that's what's happened for Rumble there. We can hop on board with Dubsy, who's on a lap. His Grounding Tortoise is set a 23.3, but I don't think that's going to be necessarily a representative time. We would expect to see the driver as well into the 1-minute 20s, most likely. I believe that was roughly the sort of times people were doing last season. As Dubsy coming through the Lesmos now, using every inch of the circuit on the exit of the second Lesmo. Get the DRS wide open as you come down underneath the bridge on the entry to Ascari. Such a difficult corner. Gotta have supreme confidence, just throw the car in and then get hard on the power as you dare. Dubsy's lost the rear a bit. I'm not sure if that's invalidated his lap.
I think it might have.
He is still in max fuel, so he may still be going for this, but it was a pretty big cut at the exit of Ascari. So we'll see if the lap does count, or whether he'll be going for another one. So no, that has invalidated his lap, as Entei has taken the provisional pole right now with a 21.6. Expect to see sometimes a little quicker than that. Who else can we hop on board with? The Renaults coming towards the end of their laps. Contrast through Parabolica now. He's had a solid season so far. Just needs a few more points to get himself up into the battle really for P3 with LJB, who has unfortunately left the session. He goes second place at the moment behind Tomato.
Pole by 42,000 of a second as we ride on board with Maznat coming through the final corner now, and Maznat is he's not gone to provisional pole, he's missed out by 6,000 of a second, so we're moving towards the climax.
Oh, Stewart takes it. Provisional pole for Stewart. Yeah, 4/10 now. That's a great lap from him. He's really shown. He turned up his first race in Hungary and was first on track, second after the penalties were applied. He's really shown he can get up there and win races. So another strong showing at the moment for Stewart as Chucky crosses line for McLaren. Where can he go? It's P6 for him. That's looking quite promising so far. We'll see if Dubsy on his second lap as he comes on the run to Parabolica now, braking just as the green AstroTurf. Oh no, sorry, he's in the lead, so he's backed out of this. So Dubsy will not have a banker lap on the board. He's going to have it all to do towards the end of the session. Puts a lot of pressure onto him here. That's not what he needs, as Pure Gold getting a little bit of a slipstream off of his teammate Stuart here. It's good to see. Nice teamwork between the two Haas drivers as he's coming down towards Ascari now, braking right at the 100-meter board. He's perhaps a little bit deep there. You want to straddle that curb on the inside as much as you can get away with, really. But the second half of Ascari is quite smooth for Pure Gold, and yeah, another newer driver into the league. He's currently reserving today for Haas. So yeah, for those guys, great use of teamwork. Even though it is a reserve in, it's not something you often see when you've got somebody filling in. As Pure Gold goes third, just behind Prying Stingray, who I'm happy to say is also back on the grid. He had some great races last season. This is his first race this season. So for him, yeah, P2 at the moment looking very strong. And if I'm not mistaken, he's done his lap on the soft compound tyres as well, the only one to go out on the softs. So I'm not quite sure about that, as it's a wet start to the race, we think. So perhaps a little bit of a strange decision there from Prying Stingray, but a 21.2 on the softs is well, that's a very, very quick time.
Very, very solid there by Prying Stingray. He might not have looked at the weather. I mean, it's a mistake that I have made previously in league racing, so it might be something for Prying Stingray to have done now. But I mean, he's in P2, so it's not really much that he lost. But again, I mean, Dubsy is still in 50. You say the pressure is on. Obviously, he's got 2 laps to do still, at least. I mean, this is a track that allows 2 laps, especially if the weather is wet for the race. You can go all out on the tyres, so there's not too much pressure on him, but it definitely needs to happen now.
Yeah, very difficult situation, and the last thing you want at Monza in a wet start is to be near the back of the grid going into turn 1, as Pure Gold does improve up to a 21.1. He's really just half a tenth away from Stewart at the moment, and that'll give him enough time to come back into the pits and set himself up for another final lap. But yeah, very good showing there from Pure Gold, as we've got Wimpernator. Now, is he coming just to start a lap possibly, or is he heading for the pits? He is still in lead, so I think this is coming towards the pit lane. It is. As we've got Rumble just about to start his second runs as well. And yeah, I mean, you picked up on the drivers doing multiple laps. This is a circuit where you can definitely get away with that, but also, you know, the wet start, you're not going to be using these tires in the race. So for the drivers, they could do 2 or possibly even 3 laps if they feel they need it, and really just push these tires as much as they possibly can, because you don't have to worry about starting on them.
Well, with the Rumble pushing the car very hard, using every inch of track that he possibly gets. Looking good so far. He was a little bit unsettled into the second chicane, but seems to have got away with it as he opens DRS, going into Ascari now. I'm going to break a little bit before the 100-meter marker board. He's tucked the car in nicely. Very good line. Ooh, Royce, oh, I say that, and he's just done this. Oh, he's crashed it.
Ooh, losing the rear through Ascari, very easy to do. It's one of the most difficult corners on the calendar, and he's found the wall. I don't think he's going to have enough time to get back in the pits and grab a new set of tyres and get back out in time. So this may well be qualifying over for Rumble, and with a 128 on the board, he's not had a clean lap, so a pretty disastrous qualifying for him. He's going to have a lot to do in the race. Who else have we got on a lap? Let's see, Contrast is just starting on this. I mean, really the whole sort of top 9 at the moment are pretty close on track, and we expect to see some of the guys improving you know, up into that top 10 as well. So looking like a very tight qualifying session here in Monza, like it pretty much always is at this circuit. The margins are so fine between the drivers. I'm on board with Spilly, and he's coming through the Lesmos now. A little twitch of oversteer. He's opening the DRS for the second time on his lap, currently sitting in 8th place at 21.6, and with the grid this close, you just need a solid clean lap with the track evolution. Oh, he's run quite deep into Ascari. He backs out of it. He didn't quite get down the gears, I don't think. He seemed to get stuck in 6th there for a moment. So yeah, Ascari not quite going to plan for him. He will have to back out. So Contrast now coming into Ascari. The driver's braking very late into there, really at the sort of 100-meter board, throwing the car in. That was a very nice line from Contrast, who's yeah, he's looked very good this season, you have to say that, and he's been consistent in the points every single race, but he's yet to get the really big result and get himself up into the top 2. So for Contrast, this will provide him a good opportunity. I think he'll be looking forward to a wet race as well. He goes P3 at the moment, so 21.1. And he will continue on with that as Stewart is still on his outlap. Who else have we got coming around the circuit?
His lap is looking very neat. He's always going wide on that corner in the first Lesmo. I hope for him that's not compromised his lap. He's still going out. DRS open now to go into Ascari in a minute as Sir LJB has just joined back after disconnecting. Well, here's me hoping for him. He can start the race just very quick through his car. He dumps it. So will this be provisional pole, or will that time be invalidated because of that extending the Lesmos? We're about to find out as he comes through Parabolica, braking after the 100-meter marker board, tucking the car in and getting the best possible traction out. And he's going towards the finish line as the finish flag waves, and it is a 20.3. Gets pole by 7/10 of a second. What a performance here by Dubsy, as we now ride on board with the championship leader, Maznat, who's 2,000 of a second up on him in the first sector as he goes through the second chicane, taking it quite neatly there, and Maznat going into the Lesmos then, and keeping the car nice and tidy there as well. Could have maybe used a little bit more of the track as the McLaren in front of him gets out of the way. Now opening DRS on his way to Ascari and coming under the bridge. There is another car ahead of him. Let's hope that does not disturb his lap.
Yeah, it was
remarkable, very late braking there by Maznat. As I think he's compromised his line. He has compromised his line, so that this is not going to be pole position by the looks of it, but it might be able to get him in P2. But Dubsy, with that pressure on, he's done very well there. He's done very well. Get pole position by 10 and 10 to the second. What a performance there by Dubsy. He's come Maznat onto the line. What can he do? Oh, he's got second. So the championship leaders are in first and second position, but they are in the reverse order. So this is all Dubsy needs to challenge for the win.
Yeah, a couple crashes there towards the end of the session. Gunning Tortoise losing it in the Lesmos. I believe that Stuart might have had an incident there coming out of Parabolica as well in his efforts for pole, but it's not going to be for him as we do have our grid. And Dom, do you want to give us a full run through of the starting order?
I'll run through it. We've got Dubsy in the Scuderia Ferrari. On pole, won 20.3. We've got Maznat in second, 6/10 off him, but obviously that wasn't a very good lap by Maznat. I'm pretty sure he could have done better, and he will do better in the race with the Harry Tomato and the Mercedes in P3. And we've got Stuart McKenzie in the first of the Haas's on P4 with a 21.0 with Pure Gold. The second Haas with a 21.1 and P5. Pure Contrast in 6 in the second Renault with the NT4 in the Force India in second. 7th, and Prime Stingray surprisingly on the soft in 8th position.
Yeah, so we've got Spilly in 9th, Chucky in 10th, and outside the top 10 we've got Crema Wimpernator again with a qualifying that not quite as strong as we would expect from him. He showed at points last season to have very strong pace, so who knows what's happened to him. He's not really put in a representative time. The Gunning Tortoise in 13th, Azatak 14th, Rumble 15th, and then a couple guys starting without setting laps. That's LJB who disconnected. Rizek and Debros are all starting at the back of the grid, not having set a lap time, and it is raining very hard here in Monza. It's going to be full wet tyres, I think, for the drivers off the start, and the opening corners of Monza, it's always difficult. There's almost always an incident, and in these conditions, you put your money on there being some sort of crash down into turn 1.
Yeah, that'll be a very difficult first corner, perhaps one of the most difficult first corners of all season, as the lights go on, and the lights are about to go out to start off round 9 in the Oceania League. As we have Dubsy on pole with a good start with the Maznat next to him. They are starting on intermediates, by the way. Interesting fact there to point out was we see Pure Contrast having a great start and going up to 6th position straight away.
Oh, it's a big incident.
The back of his teammate.
Williams going flying off there at the side. That's Spilly. He's gone straight on, and he's going to let everyone back through as Harry Tomato has caught up into second place. A beautiful start from him. He's under attack from Maznat as Dubsy streaks away in the lead here in the rain in Monza, as Maznat's going to have an effort down into turn number 4. He just about gets the nose ahead. They're side by side through the second chicane. Very difficult conditions. Maznat just gets the traction down, and he is back into P2. So gets the move done to reclaim his position. There's a lot of moves all up and down the field. Stuart has grabbed P4. Pure Gold up into 5th. Oh, although Stuart has lost it, he's off into the gravel, and that's surely going to cause problems for the drivers behind. We've got to be very careful to avoid the Haas car. He just ran deep into the second Lesmo, and he's lost multiple positions. I think he's lost 6 positions off of that. So we got side by side Gunning Tortoise and Rumble battling for 8th place. They're going to go side by side into Ascari. Very dangerous to do on the first lap as Rumble runs wide. He's had another trip off the circuit in the opening laps of a race. Tortoise takes 8th, and now that's Stuart back up into 9th as Rumble has dropped all the way down to 13th, really struggling in these opening laps. And yeah, he's had a lot of adventures this season off in the opening laps of the race. LJB up to 14th as well. As unfortunately we've lost Crema from the session as Stuart's lost some of his front wing, so he has to pit. So he does make that decision and comes into the box. Pure Gold.
Wouldn't believe how many people have lost their the front wings. I see here Contrast losing a wing on a teammate in turn 1. Very unlucky. Tried everything he could to stop the car, and we've got more cars without a wing. We got Flying
hold on, we got Pure Gold holding it around the outside of Harry Tomato. And he does get the move done, so that's yeah, that looks very easy for him, to be honest. Harry Tomato might have some kind of problem because Pure Gold just completely mugged him on the traction there. So yeah, he goes up into 3rd place. Haas team will be very happy with the reserve driver right here. He's having a beautiful run of it, as Entei up in 5th as well. That's a very good position for him to be in. I was going to say that he almost loses the rear out of the first Lesmo. He's got it under control and is looking quite good, but yeah, number of drivers in the pits. Dom, can you give us some more info on that?
There's a couple of drivers that have pitted. I'll get the pit stops on, so I know who's pitted and who's not. We got Stuart McKenzie who's pitted, we've got Ian Chucky who's pitted, and we've got the Rumble who has pitted, unfortunately. Good for these guys. I mean, the Rumble looked very pacey in qualifying, and he's now got it all to do again in a race. The same goes for Prime Stingray. I know Prime Stingray has lost a little bit of his wing. But he looked very, very pacey in qualifying, obviously setting that time on the soft tyres. And he's half just overtaken Quentin Ortiz for P7.
Okay, so Spilly is saying that he is disconnected from the session, unfortunately. What was looking like a pretty strong start, avoiding, well, taking some avoiding action into turn 1, but who knows, he might have avoided some of the chaos that happened. As Pure Gold's the first one to pick up a penalty here. Actually, he's straight off at turn 1. I think he's probably gone straight on. He's struggling to get the car out of the gravel as it is, and he's lost numerous positions. What was looking like a 3rd place, possibly now 10th. So the driver's really finding it difficult, and I think, you know, compounding the conditions, it's heavy rain, but the drivers have decided to start on the intermediate tires. We've got Whimpernator and Tortoise side by side into the 2nd chicane as Tortoise gets the move done. Whimpernator just kind of pushed wide there, and you know, Tortoise closing the door on him, and there goes, look at this, LJB already up into 8th place. What a phenomenal run from him. He's coming right from the back of right from the back of the grid. That's beautiful to see. But yeah, just compounding the problems for the drivers with the conditions. They're all on intermediate tires and it's heavy rain, so you know, these tires are going to be really struggling with these conditions, and you know, particularly in the braking zones into the likes of turn 1.
Can I just point out, Dubsy's lost the lead to Magnat.
I think Dubsy,
what he's done, he's probably made a mistake there.
I think, yeah, Scary most likely.
By 1.5 seconds, Magnat was really piling the pressure on. I was actually expecting Dubsy to run away with that qualifying pace, but Magnat is really looking very quick in the rain.
I don't think Dubsy's had a full save this yet. He's going to make a move down into turn 1. Maznat defends the inside. The two championship rivals battling it out, and Dubsy much later on the brakes. Maznat barely even fighting that one. Knew that Dubsy was well ahead into the braking zone, so Dubsy reclaims his lead after that mistake. And these guys once again find themselves together on track, just 0.6 apart between our two leaders. And Dubsy is where he needs to be. He's got to win. Well, I mean, he pretty much has to win every race of the season remaining, or at least the vast majority of them, and maybe hope that Maznat has some poor luck as well. But right now, Dubsy will be quite happy with the situation, I think.
Yeah, Frank Stingray is looking very quick. He's now up to P6, and with wing damage, he's actually catching up to pure eye contrast. So a great performance by Frank Stingray so far. We've seen him cut the entire second chicane, so I don't know whether that's allowed or not. But he's looking very quick, Frank Stingray, and maybe if he'll get his wing changed, he might be challenging for the podium position.
Yeah, contrast with a significant amount of wing damage on the front left there. I think Entei has most of his wing intact at least, so he does seem to be having a little bit of troubles with the traction out of Ascari. But Frank Stingray is all over the back of Contrast, coming down to Parabolica. Will he make a move into the fast right-hander? Contrast defends the inside, and Frank Stingray just swoops all the way around the outside. Are they going to be side-by-side on the exit? Contrast trying to fight it, but it's so difficult for him with the lack of downforce on the front end of that car. He's missing more wing than Stingray, and you can see that Stingray's got some phenomenal straight line speed as well. Contrast isn't even gaining on him in the toe, so Stingray goes up into 5th place, and on his return to AOR, putting on a great showing. He had some great races last season, so yeah, Stingray himself up into the top 5 already. He's going to go and hunt down Entei. And yeah, I mean, in terms of these intermediate tires, how long do we think that these will last? You know, is a one stop possible, do we think?
It all depends really. And like you said, the track was going to dry towards the end of the race. It depends on when that happens. 'Cause, I mean, I've had it before where the track, well, they've said it's going to be dry at the end of the race, and it dried after a couple of laps. So it's very weather depending, I reckon. If it rains all the way through, one stop, I think it'll be a difficult task. But I think essentially that's what the drivers will be going for.
One driver who doesn't look like he's waiting for any kind of strategy to make moves is Prying Stingrays. He's right on the back of Entei now. Ooh, difficult through Ascari. The driver's really struggling. Stingray getting a little creative with the track limits there, but he's right on the back of the Force India now as he's going to go to the inside into Parabolica, and surely he'll get this move done on the brakes. He does get his car ahead, but Entei is going to try and hold it all the way around the outside. They're just touching slightly as Entei's up on the concrete. You really don't want to be there, particularly in wet conditions. There's absolutely no grip out of there, and Stingray makes his way through up into the top 4, and he's he's looking at a potential podium at the moment. He's only a couple seconds behind Tomato in 3rd place, and yeah, he's looking so quick despite the wing damage.
Yeah, despite the wing damage, he's actually setting times within a couple tenths of Dubsy, and he's setting times quicker than Magnat. So the Prying Stingray definitely want to look out for later in the race. Do you think he'll get his wing change with the next pit stop? I mean, he's in 4th position now. He's catching up to the guy in 3rd. Would you really let your wing to be changed? And losing like track position again?
I would go for it if I were in that situation. Yeah, it's you never really know how much speed you're losing in the wet, but I mean, even potentially he could be, with a full front wing half a second faster, and across a stint, if he's going to do 14 laps on a set of tires, that's probably worth it. So, yeah, we'll see what he decides to do. He's showing that he's capable of overtaking. That's the main thing. If you're struggling to pass people, then you may want to keep the track position. But he's definitely showing he's capable of getting past the drivers. So perhaps the fastest overall strategy may just be the best one for him.
As we have Stuart McKenzie picking up his 2nd wing of the day, and Haas Garage with the number 1 car. And there he goes, out on track. Unfortunately, 26 seconds behind as the leaders catch up to him, so he's going to have to move out of the way pretty quickly. With Maznat not really losing pace to Dubsy. I mean, these guys are very evenly matched with the 53 Renault chasing the number 4 Ferrari. But Maznat definitely not out of this.
Oh, as Tortoise is making a move up the inside on Contrast. I don't even think he really wanted to do that. As Contrast has had to take the escape over the curbs at turn 1. I think Tortoise, might have outbroken himself slightly, and he is up and through into 6th place. And yeah, Tortoise is someone as well that has shown some great pace this season so far, and he's making his way up through the grid. He's up 7 positions. The only person who's gained more than him is LJB. He's just catching on to the back of Contrast now. Contrast really going backwards with this wing damage, and he's surely going to be one of the first drivers into the pits and looking for a new front wing and some new tyres, because he seems to be losing a huge amount of time with this damage.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of these more severe wing damage for Contrast. And I mean, I'm gutted because he looked very quick in qualifying, Contrast, so I was looking forward to him making some good moves in the race, like Prying Stingray's doing with his wing damage, but I think Prying Stingray's wing damage is significantly less than Ice Contrast. I think we'll see Ice Contrast pitting maybe lap 10, lap 11, all depending on the weather. Obviously, the drivers have got more intel on that than we do, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think Dubsy has spotted a new fast lap and now getting the gap up to 2 seconds. To Magnat as the gap to the Hairy Tomato is already up 10 seconds from the lead.
Dubsy's starting to put his foot down. It does look as if the rain is starting to ease up slightly. It's not quite, the sort of heavy downpour that we had at the start of the session. Still very difficult conditions, but it should be getting a little easier for the drivers as Stewart is out of the race. He's actually pulled into the pits and retired it. Now, this was a big sort of talking point at Belgium, where there were only 9 cars that finished that race, and I said at the end of the broadcast there, as LGB's gone straight on at the second chicane. He almost ran into the back of the Renault there, and he's going to lose a position to Pure Gold. That's costing him dearly. So Pure Gold goes up into 8th. As LGB's got a little bit more work to do now, but yeah, I mean, in terms of drivers pulling into the pits and retiring, it is somewhat of a kind of grey area in the rules. The rules do state that if you're so far behind that you're not going to be battling anyone else or really seeing anyone on track, that you are allowed to pull into the pits and retire your car. But at the same time, we saw in Belgium, only 9 cars finishing, and in wet races like this, particularly at a circuit like Monza, these races can be extremely chaotic, as we've seen already so far just in the opening 9 laps, and you're never really out of it, no matter how far behind you are. There still can be some championship points, so I'm not sure if I really agree with that decision there from Stuart, but we'll perhaps get some information on that after the race. As Prying Stingray's getting very close to Harry Tomato, but he's not quite close enough to make a move into turn 1. Is LGB going to think about anything on Pure Gold? No, he's not quite close enough either. As Prying Stingray, despite the little bit of wing damage, you can just see it on the right hand side of the front wing there. He's just missing a couple little winglets, and that will be affecting the front end of his car, the downforce and turn in he gets. Although to be fair, in the wet it's maybe slightly less of an issue, missing just a small amount of front wing. Is a bit of understeer, to be honest, in the wet is never really too bad of a thing. It's certainly better than having oversteer in tricky conditions. But despite the damage, Prying Stingray is on the hunt for a podium.
Doing a very good job here. Well, catching up to the Heritage Metal that quickly.
Tortoise is going to get the move done on Entei, who made a mistake out of the second Lesmo, and there we go, he goes up into 5th. Tortoise really with a beautiful drive so far, as Stingray on the exit of Ascari gets a beautiful run. He's going to go around the outside of Tomato, who's almost not even expecting the move, to be honest, there, and Stingray is now up into 3rd. He's got himself ahead, just about going into Parabolica. Yes, he does, on the inside line. Harry Tomato might have an opportunity to come back at him if he can get a good exit, but it's so difficult to get the power down, particularly in the dirty air from the car in front. Is Prying Stingray going to be far enough ahead down into turn 1? Tomato has got a little bit of a toe, but he's not really close enough. He sort of shows the nose there, but he's nowhere near close enough to make a move, as Stingray runs quite deep. Harry Tomato, he's not going to be close enough to make any kind of work done on the traction. So Stingray up into 3rd on the podium now, even with his wing damage. Really brilliant drive. Another brilliant drive just behind these guys is Tortoise in 5th. Let's see, Pure Gold is right up on the back of Contrast, but hasn't been able to get that move done yet, as we've got Chucky and Azatak battling for 12th place, as Chucky makes the move on the inside of Parabolica, and he gets that done. So that's a good move from him, and he's storming off down this straight. Looks like he's got some fantastic straight line speed in that McLaren there. He'll be looking for maybe a couple mistakes further up the field. He's quite a long way off the points at the moment, as we've got a really big battle now behind Entei. A sort of train forming there. Entei finding it quite difficult in these conditions to keep up with the pace of those in front of him.
Have a look then here. Obviously, Prying Stingray, while making that move, he picked up a 3-second time penalty, so that's not making things easier, as Sir LJP does the same, unfortunately for him. So he's at the back of this train, and well, that's definitely not making things easier, as Magna posting quicker times. I think you can see that the track is drying clearly. Looking at the lap times, and who knows, the drivers might be moving to slicks whenever the track dries up very shortly. We see Sir LGB going a little bit wide, compromising his exit, and then we might have a move going on, like Pure Gold. No, he's too far away from Icon Cross, unfortunately. You don't want to outbreak yourself into turn 1, having to take the escape road, as that's exactly what Pure Gold's just done. He's nearly outbroke himself. Well, not really outbroke himself, he's just able to brake a lot later than Icon Cross, obviously with the wing damage. But Pure Gold looking very, very good on the brakes, very solid. We might be able to see sort of Ricciardo-esque move going on later in the race.
Yeah, it's always a huge gamble to throwing down the inside, particularly in conditions like this. Just a note on the penalties. It's likely we're going to have a large number of penalties from drivers. We've seen a lot of drivers, locking up and pretty much aquaplaning straight on at turn 1 earlier in the race, and there have been numerous penalties picked up. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that. But the on-track results might not be, well, the final results might not exactly be the on-track results. So just keep that in mind as Pure Gold and LJB and Wimpinator really on the back of this train now, and really for this group here, they've got to start thinking about possibly pitting and undercutting and getting themselves out of this train and up in front of it.
Yeah, it all depends on what the tyre wear is on. I mean, if the tyre wear is on roughly 60% now, you don't want to be pitting because you're not going to make it to the end on the next set of tyres. So it'll be interesting to see if we see any of these guys going towards the pit. It does not look like it. No, everyone in this train is staying out. So we'll have a look further down the field and see what people are doing. As everyone that hasn't made a stop yet is still looking to make that stop. Obviously the guys as obviously Pure Gold going for a move on Pure Icon Trap. But he can't make it stick, and Sir LGB trying to profit from it, trying to go for the move on Pure Gold, but it's not exactly worked out for him. As we see, Icon Trap struggling a lot with his wing damage. He's now got a gap up to 2 seconds to Entei, who's also picked up a 3-second time penalty roughly a lap ago. But Pure Gold definitely looking to make a move. He's had a great run through the second chicane, but Icon Trap getting on the power just in time to make sure Pure Gold is not getting past him. We now right through the Lesmos. This might be another shot for Pure Gold if he gets a good exit off the second Lesmo. But it's not as good as I expected it to be. As Rice, well, how do you pronounce that? Rice KYC? I don't know any of these names, to be honest.
I just go for Rizek there, grabbing himself a time penalty. Pure Gold's just cutting Ascari slightly there. He's very sort of deep through the exit. This is going to give an opportunity to LJB. He's quite racy behind him. He's going to look for the inside at Parabolica. Pure Gold actually leaves the door open, so they're going to be side by side coming into Parabolica as LJB just about gets the nose in front, but they are side by side going all the way around the corner. A bit of wheel banging between the two cars there as LJB holding the inside line. And they are completely side by side along the pit straight. Who is going to have the better straight line speed? It looks as if they're quite even. Pure Gold maybe slightly better as LJB will have the inside line down into turn 1. He's very late on the brakes.
Oh, that's not a very good move by Sir LJB. Let's have a look at the wing. That's got Pure Gold a little bit of wing damage. You see a salvo pulling out of the way. That is Rizek, as we just said. But Pure Gold now suffering from wing damage from that move from Sir LJB. Definitely too late on the brakes and a little bit too ambitious. As we still ride side by side going into the second chicane. As Pure Gold defends that beautifully, really. Sticking to the inside, and Sir LJB's got nowhere to go and has to stick behind him. As Wimpinator still not out of this. He's sitting closely behind them, not really doing anything, not really showing himself, but ready to pounce if mistakes are made. So Pure Gold now then with wing damage as Pure Icon Trap is suffering from wing damage as well. But Pure Contrast is actually catching up to the back of Entei again after having a gap of almost 2 seconds to him. So Entei not looking entirely comfortable in these conditions despite sitting in 6th.
Yeah, Tortoise on the move again, and he's right up on the back of Harry Tomato as they come to Parabolica. He has a slightly tighter line into there, making better use of the circuit. Tomato just running slightly wide. He's getting his heart on the power as he dares. Now coming along the pit straight, can't he get any kind of toe along towards turn 1? It really looks as if the drivers are struggling to get anything from the car in front. And Tortoise is going to have to wait a little bit longer as we've got LJB and Pure Gold side by side once again. As Pure Gold going extremely late on the brakes there. Runs a little deep, but actually it defends his position pretty well. LJB trying to get the move done on traction, but he's not quite close enough. As Tortoise, is he going to throw one down the inside of Harry Tomato into the second chicane? No, thinks better of it. So LJB, will he throw one down the inside into the second chicane, mirroring the drivers up ahead? He does. They're side by side, and it's very tight between these two, and Pure Gold holds on to that position He's defending very hard here. He's got a bit of wing damage, and the last thing you want is if you've got wing damage from a car hitting you, attempting an overtake. The last thing you're going to want to do is let them pass. So Pure Gold defending very, very hard.
It's really struggling with that wing damage, and can I just point out the track is dry, as the Dubsy has got a gap of 3.5 seconds now to Maznat. But we will see the first cars coming into the pits very, very soon, I reckon, because the track is looking very, very dry. As we see a little bit of spray coming off the tyres of Dupsy as I'm riding on board with him, but not a lot. As we see Azatak and the Rumble actually pitted for dry tyres. Hold on, Azatak has actually pitted for intermediates. I don't know if that is a meant stop. But the Rumble has pitted for dry tyres. He's on the soft tyres now, so that'll be interesting to see how that'll work out for him. We will look at the Rumble, seeing what last time he'll be doing.
Tortoise is definitely closer to Harry Tomato down into turn 1. Will he throw it down the inside? He does go for it. He's extremely late on the brakes. He actually makes the corner. That's a beautiful move from Tortoise. Really, really aggressive there from the McLaren driver, but he made it stick as LJB looks to finally have the move done on Pure Gold. Just missed that as Wimpinator now up as well into P9. So Pure Gold losing a couple of positions. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the tyre choice for the drivers, I think it's a difficult one because while the track is drying, I don't think it quite looks ready for the slick tyres yet. There's still a fair amount of spray coming off. I think it's getting there, but it needs a couple more laps really for those tyres. And Rumble is losing quite a lot of time to Azatak in front of him. So I think it's too early.
He's struggling a lot. He's sliding all over the place as he lets the entire field pass. But I would have expected him a little bit quicker. But obviously the track is not ready yet for those soft compounded tyres. So yeah, unfortunate for the Rumble, and we'll have a look at the front runners and see if any of the front runners are going to fit. No, Dubsy has stayed out, and Maznat is probably reacting to that and stayed out as well. Maznat is getting the gap down to 3.2, so the gap just they're just getting a little smaller, but they're still very much in reach of each other.
Yeah, this is where driving styles and tyre wear really come into play, because those who've been looking after their tyres will be able to get the intermediates to the slick conditions. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, for the drivers that are kinder to the tyres, particularly the rear tyres, those drivers who've been cautious in the traction zones and looking after them. They will be able to make it long enough potentially to go to the slicks. For the drivers who've been pushing hard, they might not. Interestingly enough, Tortoise has gone for the slick tyres. He's gone for a set of softs. We'll see if Rizek is able to keep with him here. It's still quite a lot of spray coming off these tyres. So
Rumble has just pitted and he had wing damage on his first outlap on the dry tyres. So the Rumble definitely struggling a lot. As he picks up his second set of soft tyres within 2 laps time. So unfortunately there for the Rumble, but he's in 15th place, so not much really to be lost. As Magnat now got a gap at 3.7 seconds, so he might have made a mistake somewhere, but there's still 11 laps to go, and a lot can happen in 11 laps, especially looking at the pit window, as we see Dubsy staying out for another lap. Will Magnat try and go for the soft tyres? He does not. He's staying out on track as well. What'll be interesting to point out is what's Flying Stingray going to do? He's in an interesting position here where he could potentially undercut the guys in front. Yeah, it's all about taking that risk, really. I mean, he's got that wing damage, so he's very keen to get that changed. So if we're going to see anyone pit, it'll probably be Flying Stingray.
Yeah, issue for him is it's such a big gap in front. I mean, realistically, he needs to find a way to gain a pit stop on those guys, because you know, you really need a massive undercut to pull off that kind of gap. But yeah, I mean, the track it's a really difficult situation, because while it has stopped raining, the circuit is still pretty damp. The people that have gone onto the soft tires are still struggling on them, it seems. We'll keep an eye on Tortoise's lap times, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't quite look ready for the slick tires yet, and surely some of these guys have got to be getting very on the limit in terms of tire wear. I mean, they've been all these intermediates.
Oh, he's binned it. He's binned it after the second Lesmo. He's thrown away 6th position.
Oh yeah. He's probably lost it on the outside there on the curb, but that was looking like a very promising result. P4 was on the cards really, and he's thrown it away for Mercedes. So Tomato, that's very, very disappointing. Would have been his best result of the season, and it will not be the case. And that promotes Entei up into fourth, which would be his highest position of the season now. So he's looking, he's kind of been struggling in these conditions, but he hasn't really made big mistakes. This is the thing. He's kind of struggling for grip and pace a little bit. His car looks a bit twitchy. He's perhaps got a little, lacking a little rear wing or something like that. Maybe his ballast is too high as Wimpinator gets LGB's in the pits as Wimpinator up into sixth. But yeah, Entei, he's kind of been struggling with the car, but he's not made any major mistakes. And that's the big thing in these conditions. So long as you keep the car on track and you don't make any big errors, you can maintain a strong position, and he's found himself in fourth place here, and props to him. It's been a very consistent drive.
Really lost it out of the last corner parabolica, so I don't know whether the soft tyres are actually ready yet, as we see Sir LGB coming out on the super soft tyres right in front of Tortoise. And will Tortoise be able to go for the move? Will he be able to? Yes, kind of. Yeah, it's made its way through. So it'll be interesting to see what these guys can do on the dry tyres. And will they be able to gain the traction? It's just horrendous on those dry tyres.
The thing is, though, before the pit stop, Tortoise was much further up the field than LGB, so he's lost a huge amount of time compared to the intermediate runners by going for the slick tyres early. And normally in these conditions, as Dom will know very, very well, the harder compound tyres are generally faster in damp conditions than the softer compound tyres. So, interesting choice from LGB to go for the super softs. I mean, they should make it to the end, and if the track does get completely dry, then they'll be the best tyre. But right now, it doesn't really look like it's drying up very much.
Well, I think it actually is drying up. I mean, Tortoise is not losing any time anymore to Pure Gold, and I know Pure Gold's got wing damage, but the dry tyres are definitely looking a lot better than they were a couple of laps before. Wimpinator is now pitting. So what tyres are you going to go for? There's a set of super softs waiting for him in the Mercedes box as he puts it on the number 10 car. And he makes his way out on track, so that entire middle train is making that call to pit.
Yeah, and when you're in that midfield, you've got that ability to take a bit of a gamble and try and jump yourself further up the field. Where will Wimpinator come out of the pits? He is ahead of Tortoise. Is he going to be able to defend it into turn one, as Tortoise is very late on the brakes? He actually gets himself alongside, but he's almost lost the rear there. A bit of contact. Tortoise really just battling with his car to try and keep it on this circuit. He was very, very sideways in the braking zone, but Wimpinator does hold on to P7 at the moment, and these guys are looking for the undercut on the guys ahead of him now, as Tortoise is so late on the brakes. So he's actually too late on the brakes. He goes across the runoff, and this is going to give LGB this contact.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Maznat is in the pit, so he's going for the undercut on Dubsy, as Dubsy is staying out for another lap. The slick tyres do look kind of ready, so it'll be interesting to see what Maznat is going to go for here. Surely it's going to be super soft tyres, and they are waiting him as DRS is enabled, so this looks like the right time to switch. So this might be a crucial move here by Maznat, as Flying Stingray pricks as well. It'll be interesting to see if he gets his wing changed. But how much time will Dubsy lose by this, as Entei picks up a 5-second stop and go penalty for speeding. And all of the cars are into the pits now, so Dubsy might have made a huge mistake here by staying out. Might have not got the call by his engineer Jeff, but
well, here's the thing. Wimpinator not gaining a massive amount on the cars in front. He gained maybe half a second on that lap, and we know Pure Gold was missing a bit of front wing. So for these guys, whereabouts are they going to come out? Entei should just about maintain the position. Ooh, I think he's had to cut across the pit lane line there a wee bit, but Wimpinator and Tortoise now side by side. Tortoise is unbelievably late on the brakes. He's run deep slightly, and now there's contact between him and LGB. They're bashing wheels pretty harshly through Curva Grande as LJB trying to hold it all the way around the outside. That isn't going to work for him. Is he going to make a move down into the second chicane? He doesn't. Tortoise is so late on the brakes. I don't know what he's done with his setup there, but yeah, he's making it work as Dubsy.
He's got a 5-second stop and go penalty, and he's got his car right beside him in the pit stops. And Maznat is just eating into that gap like mad. He's just, I think, gained about 3 seconds in one lap as Dubsy puts on the super soft tyres. Where will this put him into, well, in relationship to Magnat? As Magnat comes out of Parabolica. Let's have a look then. Dubsy near the pit exit. And Magnat's got all the speed on him, but it looks like Dubsy's going to stay ahead. But he has got that 5-second stop and go penalty, unfortunately. As we do have a Toro Rosso ahead as he lets the Ferrari straight through.
He's trying to let him through, but he's run over the curb a little bit. He does now. But Dubsy, you know, second week in a row, he's made a critical error from the lead of the race. He's done all he needed to on track, and unfortunately for him, he has to pull a 5-second gap on Maznat. It's the only way he can win this race, as Wimpinator sets the fastest lap of the race. So yeah, the track really coming to these slick tires now, and
the Rumble's retired. The Rumble pinned it on the. What is that? Hold on. Oh, that's after a Ascari. He lost it on that exit curve.
A very difficult situation. So Dubsy, he's got 6 laps. He has to pull a 5-second gap on Maznat if he wants to win this race. And well, he's got it all to do. Maznat looking pretty racy behind him as well, gaining a massive amount of time on that undercut. So yeah, very difficult situation for the reigning champion here. He's got to pull something incredible out of the bag and find some phenomenal pace. Right now, it's got to be full attack and really just go for it from Dubsy, and just trust that the conditions will continue to improve and that there will be grip there when you ask the tires for it. As Entei is now getting up onto the back of Wimpinator, and as the track dries up, Entei has found another gear, it seems, in his Force India, getting within half a second of Wimpinator coming through Ascari. The driver is finding it very, very difficult through there. It's a hard enough corner in the dry, never mind in damp conditions. So yeah, Entei getting quite close to Wimpinator. I don't think it'd be close enough to make a move on this lap, but he's just got to put the pressure on and hope that the driver in front makes some kind of mistake, as LGP's made a little bit of an error, I think, behind Tortoise. Pure Gold is right on the back of Contrast as well, and both these guys now fitted with full front wings. So Pure Gold, he's got the DRS open. That was available a couple laps ago, but he's not even really gaining on Contrast. So he does go for a massive dive on the brakes as Contrast just about holds it around the outside and maintains his position. But Pure Gold very late on the brakes, and
Ricardo on him, didn't he? And just couldn't make it stick. Pure Contrast giving him plenty of space. And defending that nice.
Yeah, he's had to defend, and Pure Gold had to lift there. He was going to run into the back of the Renault. Such was the closing speed. So yeah, almost an incident between those two. But good job from Pure Gold to avoid any contact there. As Attack has lost the car out of Parabolica, so the driver's falling thick and fast here in Monza in the drying conditions.
Got a move going on for P6. Got a move going on for P6 as Entei.
Oh, there's a huge contact between Tortoise and Entei. And
Tortoise into the wall, and Tortoise got loads of wing damage.
Oh yeah, he's missing.
As LGB is coming up to the back of him and getting past him nicely. Well, is he getting past him? Yes, he is. But Grimfin Tortoise not giving up on that just yet. But that looked like a little bit of good desync involved there, as Grimfin Tortoise not got any grip, and Sir LGP's put a nice undercut on him. And is he going to go into the pits? Yes, he is. So he'll be fitting I think a set of the super soft tyres, and that is unlucky for Tortoise. Looking like a good race in P6, getting some nice points on the board, and it's looking like a P9 and maybe even P10 after this.
Yeah, might be something to say about that in the stewards post race, as Pure Gold is glued to the back of Contrast, but isn't able to get himself close enough up front. Dubsy is extending the gap, but it's not quite enough yet. He's got a lot of work to do. He really needs to start putting in fastest laps and pulling a second lap on Maznat. You know, if that's even possible. It's so difficult in conditions like this, you know, to trust the car and to really push it. But that's a situation Dubsy's found himself in, and he has to just go for it.
He's putting every little bit of pressure on, and he's really pushing that car to its limit. As the gap now goes up to 2 seconds, in about, what was it, 1 second? It's gone from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds, so Dubsy is definitely putting the pressure on. And who knows, he might actually be able to extend this gap to 5 seconds. I mean, Mathematic's got it all to do now. And Dubsy's now getting up to 2.2 seconds, so it is I still think the 2.4 now, so Dubsy's still not out of this.
If it's possible, would you be able to check Maznat and Dubsy for any other penalties that they may have done? No other penalties. Okay, so
very cleanly by both of them. No warnings whatsoever. Well, actually, I did check a couple of laps ago. I'll have a look now if anyone's picked up a warning. Not by the looks of it. Maznat hasn't, and Dubsy hasn't either. So these drivers both very cleanly on the track limits. I mean, Italy is a difficult track with track limits, really, especially with that second chicane in Ascari. But these drivers are keeping it cleanly as the gap is now up to 2.5 seconds. So Dubsy's still eager for that win and hungry for that win. And we might actually see that win happening very soon as we go on to lap 25. There's 3 laps remaining, and Dubsy's got 3 seconds, well, 2.5 seconds to put.
Yeah, so he is still pulling away. Dubsy, he's doing very well here, but will it be enough? He really desperately needs this win. Otherwise, he's just going to have such a massive, mountain to climb in the final 6 races. He would really need some misfortune from Maznat if he wanted to have any hope at that stage. But we'll keep an eye on it, as Pure Gold is still within the DRS range of Contrast. But Contrast is he's defending this well. He's just starting to stretch that out a little bit. It was about 4/10 a couple laps ago. He's just about got it up to 8/10 now, so Contrast looking like he's in a good situation to hold on to P7 here, and maybe not the result he would have hoped for, but considering the damage on lap 1 and sort of steering what really looked like a boat of a car, to be honest, for 20 laps on intermediate tires, he's done very well to end up well into the points. Yeah, this is the 2 closest cars on track, and LGB and NSA are not too far ahead, so there could possibly be some moves here still in the midfield. LGB just edging in on NSA a little bit, and he's had a phenomenal drive today, coming from was it sort of 16th, 17th on the grid, 16th on the grid. So yeah, LJB with a beautiful recovery after disconnecting in qualifying.
He's having a good race now and definitely eating into that gap with the NSA, so P5 might still be on the cards as the gap is now up to 3.1 seconds at the front, nearly 3.2 now, so it looks like a little bit of a tall order for Dubsy, but he's trying everything within his power. He's the quickest car on track, but the win at this stage looks a little bit too far away.
Yeah, he needs 2 absolutely mighty laps here in the final laps at Monza. He's got to pull 1.8 seconds on his championship rival, championship leader Maznat at the moment. Oh, hold on, he's paused here for a second. I don't think so, but he's lost a huge amount of time here. He's had to pause his game for some reason. He's now 4.5 seconds behind Dubsy, so this is going to put it right towards Dubsy. He just needs half a second in the final couple of laps now, and this is getting very close. Maznat needs to pull out something phenomenal.
What on earth has happened there? Maznat had it halfway into the bag already, and he's paused his game for some reason. I don't know, his wheel might have disconnected. He's on the wheel, I believe, Maznat, isn't he?
Pad. Yeah, both these top guys, Dubsy and Maznat, are pad users. So
might have been that his pad may have died, I don't know, but this is making things very difficult for Maznat, because I mean he is still effectively in the lead. It isn't actually anymore. Dubsy's really quick, and we've got this one last lap to go, and it's effectively a time trial lap to see who's the quickest.
Yeah, all on the board here, the final lap in Monza. For those that are just joining us, it is a 5-second stop go for Dubsy, so he'll have 5 seconds added on to his race time at the end of the race. Maznat is just outside of that 5-second window now after that final lap, so he's just got to hold it where it is. He's edged it in.
Inside of it, it's unbelievable. This, I mean, this is the win. They're not actually side by side, but the race for the win here as Dubsy takes the net lead now. And Maznat is only 12,000 of a second behind us. Maznat now takes the lead. It's incredible stuff here, really. It's just time trialing and just pushing the car to its limit so you can get the quickest time. As Maznat is now 4.8 seconds behind, so the win is actually not still away from Maznat. He can still do it. He just needs a clean lap as the gap is now 4.9 seconds and now 5.0. So now Dubsy is into the lead into this last couple of corners.
Yeah, Pure Gold not able to get the move done, so we will hop up to the leaders now as Dubsy is throwing his car through Ascari. They're right on the limit here up front, as this really is a time trial to the finish. Dubsy coming towards Parabolica as he just edges it over 5 seconds. You can see that Renault behind him. He'll know that the gap is incredibly close as he throws it into Parabolica. Hard on the power, and across the line he goes. Dubsy will take it on track. Maznat, is he going to have enough? He's 5 seconds behind.
Has he done it? No, he's not.
Dubsy takes it by 300ths of a second here in Monza.
Wow. 300ths of a second separating the top two. Not on track, but in the results they will, as we have Flying Stingray actually not repairing his wing in that pit stop. But despite that, picking up P3, a great drive, and potentially driver of the day, Flying Stingray. Great job by him. As we have Wimpinator crossing the line in fourth. Invisible really for the entire race until that last stint where we got up from 10th to 4th position. As we have Entei who will secure 5th position with the LJB in 6th, and then
contrast, yeah, jumping LJB in the final results there, just by 6/10.
Track limits wise, Icon Class, and that's just giving in that 6th position as Pure Gold finishes in 8th position. And then we are on board with Grunton Tortoise. A very unlucky race with that incident with Entei. Could have potentially finished P5 or P6, and now unfortunately have to settle for P9 as the last car to cross the line is Amchuki with the last point scoring position. So the two McLarens have a double point scoring position, but unfortunately it's only P9 and P10 for the McLaren boys, and I don't know where that's going to put them in the constructors battle. I haven't actually looked at the constructors battle. So we'll do that in a moment of time. But what a race here for the Oceania League, the F1 League, with Dubsy edging out Mazma by 30,000 of a second, taking that win.
Yeah, really unbelievable final lap. I've never seen anything like that. I've done a lot of league races over the last couple of years, but I've never seen a situation quite like that in a race with a stop go. So yeah, really beautiful driving from both of the top two, and it looks as if Dubsy has just clinched it here in Monza, and that's what he needed to do. He's got a mountain to climb in the championship in the second half of this season. We have just had the week break and we're into the second half now, but Dubsy, he's kicked it off well and picks up a win here in Italy. What a beautiful drive from him, and yeah, it does show a 5 second gap there, but that's not counted the 5 second penalty, so it really is just those 300ths of a second between the top two. Maznat, that sort of incident, pausing the game on the penultimate lap, might have had a controller, or battery might have died, or had a disconnection, or something like that. But Maznat just missing out on the win there. Prying Stingray in third place, a great podium for him. A really beautiful drive despite the wing damage. Showed was really really the only person that looked kind of comfortable overtaking out there. Lots of guys locking up and going straight on, and a fair amount of wheel banging. Some other great drives as well. Wimpinator with a very quiet race from 12th place has ended up in 4th, and LJB as well. Okay, may have lost 6th to contrast on penalties, but yeah, great drives from lower down at the grid from those two.
Yeah, great race overall. I mean, going back and forth between Dubsy and Maznat all race, and Dubsy in the end did well. I think the deserving winner. They would have both deserved it, but Dubsy effectively really the quickest, especially in that damp conditions. But Maznat with that inspiring move going into the pits before Dubsy, and Dubsy losing a lot of time by staying out that extra lap, and that definitely put Maznat back into contention for that win. Dubsy, making things very hard for himself with that stop and go, but managed to put it out by 300ths of a second. A great race by the Oceania League. It's a good race to start off with for me. Definitely enjoyed that, and definitely will be tuning in next week for the race around Singapore.
Yeah, sort of polar opposite coming up next. We've had a very fast and flowing race, albeit in difficult conditions here at Monza, and then we go to Singapore, which is really a long technical track and a very long race as well. It's a real sort of grueling effort for the drivers around there, and a very different sort of challenge for the drivers compared to this circuit. But yeah, really great race, and what a phenomenal final lap that was set up. And if you're Maznat there, knowing that you're 300ths of a second away from winning the race, that's got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm not sure actually if Maznat knew about the penalty from Dubsy.
Yeah, he might not have known, or possibly it could have been the case where his engineer might have said, "Oh, the car in front has a penalty," but you don't know if that's a 3 or 5 second penalty.
No.
So he might not have known until he crossed the line, but we certainly did, and it was a really brilliant final lap. And yeah, what a great race! Lots of battling, and one that's well worth a rewatch, I think.
Yeah, definitely worth rewatching that. Well, the battling didn't happen on track between the top two, but it definitely happened time-wise. Well, pretty much a shootout really on who was the quickest driver over a couple of laps, and Dubsy finally edging it out. Well, kind of because of Maznat pausing his game or whatever happened to him. We will ask him later on, obviously, to get that information for you next week for the broadcast and have a word about that. But anyway, it's been a pleasure. Was that it, Curly? Did we not do podium interviews? I do not know what.
No, we're not quite doing podium interviews at the moment. We may look to sort of bring that back in at some point later in the series, but not quite at the moment. But yeah, we will wrap things up here today. So thank you everybody for joining us. It was a fantastic race, and if you're looking for more content here on AOR, obviously we had the Xbox race at the same time. So go ahead and check that out and see what happened over there. We'll also have racing tonight in the European leagues, 8 p.m. UK time, the top splits of PC, Xbox and PS4. We can watch both myself and Dom tackle the circuit here in Italy, as well as a number of other splits for you to enjoy, and that'll be at 8 p.m. UK time tonight. And then going forward, our next race will be in Singapore at the same time next week. So that's 11 a.m. UK. And yeah, that'll be a long and grueling race for the drivers, a very technical circuit. It's always an interesting one to commentate on and to watch, because it's a track where really the race is never over until you cross the line. I've seen some pretty spectacular incidents there in the final lap. So yeah, very, very tough circuit for the drivers, maybe even the toughest on the calendar, because it's such a long race. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us here at AOR, and I hope to see you all next week.